The culture that an individual is born into often has an effect on the type of person they become. In today's society, the mixing of cultures through interracial marriage is often viewed as a taboo. Anita Rao Badami uses the hero's walk to tell the story of Sirpati Rao as he deals with the death of his daughter, Maya Baker, and becomes the legal guardian of Dandana Baker, his half-white and half-Indian granddaughter. In the hero's walk, Anita Rao Badami discusses obligations, cultural views, and the effects of change, which help justify the idea that individuals take on the beliefs of those around them to avoid social isolation and subsequently maintain a stable inner peace. See, the obligations that are nurtured into an individual when they are children put a strain on the characters later in life, as shown when the author develops the roles of males, females, and children in an Indian environment. Firstly, Sripati's character brings forth emotions of sympathy for a man who is originally seen as arrogant and quick-tempered. To show, when Sripati is told he might be fired from his job soon, he uses a metaphor to express his emotions. He wanted to cry, he wanted to laugh. This must be how a long-time prisoner feels on being released, he thought, relieved to see the open gates, yet so terrified of what lies on the other side. Sripati's obligations as a male of the house constantly led him to make decisions that he did not necessarily want to make. Consequently, this caused him to feel as if he had something to prove and limited how he acted. Furthermore, Nirmala expresses her desire to stray from her submissive character throughout the novel. To explain, as Nirmala begins to defy her mother-in-law, she reflects on her past regrets. The habit of obedience, of respect for one's elders, of subservience, ran strong in her blood. How could she have been so like a faithful animal? By comparing Nirmala to an animal, there is an implication that everyone else in her life is her owner, a thought that is very coarse and helps readers understand just how unpleasant Nirmala was treated by those around her. It is also interesting to note that Nirmala mentions blood in this quote and implies that her obedience was her biological nature and not a result of nurture. The specific idea that a woman's place is naturally to serve is echoed in many sacred Hindu texts. In childhood, a female must be subject to her father, in her youth to her husband, when her lord is death to her sons. A woman must never be independent. Moreover, children in an Indian community also have a lot of pressure on them. In the song Lost Boy by Ruth B., she expresses the effects of all this pressure.
There was a time when I was alone, nowhere to go and no place to call home. My only friend was the man in the moon, and even sometimes he would go away too.
To relate, many Indians believe it is disgraceful to ask anyone but their oldest son for help, which puts a lot of pressure on the oldest son and belittles the other children. Sripati had this ideology as well and constantly put pressure on his son Arun while he pushed his daughter out of his life. Since Arun did not fit into the role his parents set out for him, he was often excluded. Continuing, at the end of the song, Sripati makes references to a popular tale of children who longed of a way to escape their life. Run, run, lost boy, they say to me, away from all of reality. Neverland is home to lost boys like me, and lost boys like me are free. And this relates to the novel because Arun fit the description of a lost boy, someone who did not fit into society and is isolated due to this. Instead, he found comfort in helping the world, leading him to often getting into dangerous situations and putting his life at risk. It was only during the moments when he felt like his existence has a purpose did he feel free. To end, by discussing the different jobs of a typical male, female, and child in an Indian community, Badami was able to show the consequences that come with raising a child based on their duties and positions. Moreover, Badami shows the limited views that the Indian community has by talking about social pressures, the caste system, and honor. To begin, individuals were often indirectly persuaded to act a certain way in fear of what those around them would say. One of the most eye-catching stories discussed was of a widow who was cut off from society for seeming to be too unconcerned with her husband's death, which was allegedly shown by her use of makeup and brightly colored clothing. Shintama liked Ruku, although since the woman had become an outcast, a whore, a trollop, and unmentionable in these homes, she had not had the courage to go near her or even smile at her. To elaborate, Badami is showing the power of social pressures and how they can ruin and limit one's life. Shantama was an 82-year-old woman who missed the opportunity of becoming friends with Ruku and having a valuable relationship that would benefit them both. This shows how one's culture or age does not affect how powerless they are when it comes to peer pressure. Secondly, the caste system plays a huge role in how society in India functions. To show, Amaya reacts to Nirmala and Sripati caring for the servant girl in a surprising manner. How could a servant bathe in the same place as a mistress of the house? Unthinkable. And eat the same food? Obviously, Nirmala was losing her mind. What would the neighbors think when they heard about this? To explain, in a Hindu community, there are 4 major castes: the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. It is implied that the Rao family is a part of the Vaishya caste, and Kuti, who is a servant, is of the Shudriya caste. Amaya is so concerned with her reputation and higher caste that she will not show any sympathy for Koti. Amaya is throwing away basic human kindness in fear of what others would think, showing readers how people are influenced and controlled by social structures. Furthermore, while the Rao family struggles with many conflicts, they keep it to themselves and put on an act in front of others. To relate, J. Cole sings about never showing his vulnerability to the world in his song Villain Mentality.
Play me never, give up my chain never, give up my pride never, show my pain never, dirt on my name never.
And the idea that asking for help is a sign of weakness is shown in many of the characters, showing readers how high the value of status is. One particular example was when Tripathi, even at the risk of losing his only granddaughter, was unable to swallow his pride and ask his neighbors for help. His ego overruled the love he had for his granddaughter, showing that reputation is more important than family bonds to some people. To add, in the same song, J. Cole talks about the future when he sings, "How long can I survive with this mentality? Things fall down, but don't stop now. Oh, can't stop now. Oh, won't stop now." To explain, J. Cole is explaining that he is not sure how long he can survive with this viewpoint before he self-destructs. He also indicates that this pride is buried so deep within him that even when his life is falling apart, he cannot shed away this ideal of his. In the novel, Tripathi was taught as a kid that he must do everything by himself, influencing his current inability to ask for help even if the situation is serious. To conclude, by expressing the influence of social pressures, the caste system, and pride, Badami was able to help readers understand the backward perspective that is still present in the Indian community. Lastly, the conflicts that arise when an individual branches out from what is traditionally expected of them was shown by Arun, Putti, and Tripathi and Nirmala. To start, in India, it is very common for the birth of a son to be more celebrated than a daughter. Due to this, it was quite interesting that Tripathi valued his daughter over his son. He looked away before he blurted out something unforgivable, such as, "Why your sister and not you?" Arun flirted with danger every other day in his efforts to change the world, but here he stood healthy and breathing. Arun, as the only son, was expected to get a good paying job and work towards bringing in money. However, he chose not to follow these guidelines and chose his own path. This causes conflicts between father and son, which leads to Tripathi pushing Arun away until he is nothing more than a stranger that is disposable. In addition, marrying someone of a different caste is often thought of as sinful, especially for those that are older and still view the world as more divided than it has to be. To show, when Putti decides to marry someone of her choice, her mother expresses her feelings very strongly. "And don't think I will give you any jewelry to wear. From today you and I are strangers. You are a piece of dirt that my womb voided and that I kept by mistake. Idiot that I am." To elaborate, Putti marrying someone who her mother saw as unfit created an external conflict between Putti and Amaya, which was very important because Amaya only ever showed love to Putti. Amaya had certain expectations for her daughter and felt betrayed by her decisions to live for herself and follow her heart, causing her to act horribly. Next, Tripathi and Nirmala slowly begin to lose each other throughout the novel. In Ivy by Frank Ocean, he sings about the conflicts between him and his ex-lover. "I could hate you now, it's alright to hate me now. We both know that deep down the feeling still deep down is good. All the things I didn't mean to say, I didn't mean to do. There were things you didn't need to say. Did you mean to? Me too." These lyrics relate to the conflict between Tripathi and Nirmala. Tripathi began to drift away from his role as a male of the house when his internal and external conflicts caused him to lose himself in delusions. Additionally, Nirmala begins to act against Tripathi after Maya's death. Even though they love each other dearly, them moving away from the roles they were familiar with creates the conflict present between them and causes them to act out in ways they later regret. On the same note, Frank Ocean uses the same song to show the effects of growing older.
You ain't a kid no more. We'll never be those kids again. It's not the same.
Frank Ocean is addressing the fact that as individuals grow older, they begin to mature. This was shown in the novel as Tripathi and Nirmala change and begin to act out of character as they deal with the tragedies in life. To some, Arun, Putti, and Tripathi and Nirmala show readers the disagreements that arise when an individual stays from the expectations they were raised with. To end, individuals unconsciously begin to follow the beliefs of those around them to protect themselves from social isolation and keep a peaceful state of mind, as shown through various duties, cultural views, and the aftermath of straying from traditions. The Rao family from The Hero's Walk by Anita Rao Badami faces many tragedies that affect everyone, focusing on Tripathi Rao and his half-white granddaughter Nandana. Furthermore, interracial marriages are generally viewed as unholy in today's Indian society and not often supported by one's family. This leaves a pressing question. What makes a hero? Is it the ability to conform and live in the shadows of what others want, or is it being able to stand up and rebel for what an individual feels is right?